Hi, hello, and welcome to the Global Youth Mental Health Awareness Show, where we have open conversations with the youth about mental health. I'm your host, Katina NDOLA, author of The Big Comeback and founder of the Confidence and Self-Esteem Academy, and one of GYMHA's special board advisors. In today's show, we're so blessed to be in the presence of three amazing panelists. And our first panelist this evening is Anish Maheti. Anish is a global keynote speaker, award-winning author, and TEDx speaker. Hello and welcome to the show, Anish.
Thank you for inviting me to this workshop, this session, and I look forward to interacting with you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome. And our second panelist is Iguilo Modesta. Iguilo is a medical student, mental health advocate, well-being writer, and educator at GYMHA. Hello and welcome to the show, Iguilo. Okay, Iguilo, can you hear us?
Can't hear you.
Okay, and our third panelist is...
I can't hear you.
Yes, thank you. So our third panelist is... We just lost him, I think. Our third panelist is Dauda Mutiu Abdul Karim. He's a GYMHA ambassador. I think we just lost him, so we'll wait when he gets back. We'll introduce him again. So in our conversation today, our guests will give us some insights on toxic relationships and how they affect our mental health. But before we dive in deeper, I always like to ask, how are we feeling this evening or this afternoon? Anish.
Amazing.
Amazing?
It is. It's a beautiful afternoon out here where I am currently, and I'm very excited to share my thoughts and listen to what other panelists have to say about this topic. So yeah, very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. What about Aguilo? How are you feeling today?
Sorry.
Aguilo.
Oh
Modesta?
yes.
Aguilo Modesta, can you hear us?
Modesta, hi.
Yes, how are you feeling today?
I can hear you now.
Tell us, how are you feeling today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we know that toxic relationships is something that affects everybody across the world. Like it's a big topic these days. So Anish, what really is a toxic relationship?
So I'm a person who like to simplify things. So rather than giving a huge lengthy definition and paragraph about toxic relationship, I would just simply say uh, whenever you feel that your energy is getting sucked or you're feeling a loss of energy, um, you are in that sort of a toxic relationship. So that's the easiest way to make someone understand, like if you are in a toxic sort of a relationship, just look at your energy. How are you feeling from within? So yeah, I would say loss of energy is a sign of toxic relationship.
Modesta, what do you think? What is a toxic relationship according to you?
According to me, a toxic relationship is a relationship with one or both individuals are not showing up in their authentic selves.
Sorry, repeat that again. We can't actually hear you very clearly.
Okay, a relationship in which one or both individuals show up in their authentic selves.
Okay, I think we have a bad line because you're cutting in and out. We're missing some words.
That's like a short definition.
Can you actually hear me properly?
Oh, shit.
Modesta, can you actually hear me properly?
I
Because I
can
can't.
hear you, but it's echoing.
Yeah, because when you speak, we're missing every second word. We didn't quite understand what you said about that. Can you please repeat what is a toxic relationship according to you?
Said, according to me, a toxic relationship is a relationship between one or both individuals are not showing up their authentic selves.
Okay. And just moving forward, so what is the psychology of toxic relationships to health? Anish, what do you think?
Uh, so I'm assuming this is more to do with like what is the impact of toxic relationship on your health,
Correct.
if I've
That's right.
understood it really. So basically, number one thing which is going to happen to you internally, physically or mentally, there would be a lot of stress. If you are, again, I'm just trying to keep it really simple. Like if you are in a toxic relationship, it is just going to give you some sort of a stress inside your body, and you're going to feel that stress, even though you deny it, but somehow it is kicking into your system. So stress is the number one thing which I personally feel impacts. If you are in a toxic relationship, that's the number one thing that's going to happen to your health. You are going to feel slightly drained out, and you will feel stressed, and yeah. So that's,
Yes, of course, that's the truth. When you get stressed, everything goes wrong for everybody. You hold all the energy in the wrong spaces, and I guess your health starts going downhill.
true.
Modesta, Modesta, if you can hear us, what do you think is the psychology of toxic relationships to your health and mental health? Modesta, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there with that line. So then, Anish, what are the signs of a toxic relationship? I know there's so many different things. There could be, as you said in the beginning, when you feel like your energy is being depleted, maybe around certain people, obviously something is not right. But what do you believe are the signs of a toxic relationship?
So, I mean, I'll try and give you maybe two or three sort of signs, So again, if you have a bit of self-awareness, if you are slightly more aware, you have that sort of a skill where you are able to monitor how you are feeling, and you have that sort of a self-awareness. I would say that um, some of the signs which you can figure out is there would be a lot of control. So the other person will try and control your thought process, control your emotions. So you will feel that there's a lot of control which is happening. Second thing which I personally feel is um, one of the sign would be a bit of disrespectful. I mean, you will feel that a lot of there is a lack of respect which you can see, when you are with that person in that toxic relationship. And then jealousy or being envious, envious about you don't feel discomfortable about talking about your achievements and all that, because somehow it will not be taken in the nice in the right spirit. So those are like two or three points. So jealousy, and then lack of respect, and as I said, feeling a lot of someone is controlling you and your emotions. So yeah, top three.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure right there. And what about Modesta? Can you now hear us, Modesta? Modesta, can you hear us at all? Okay. I'm not sure what's happening with Modesta there. Okay. So we've got, is that you, Dauda?
Yeah, that's me.
Yes. Hello and
Good
welcome.
morning. Good morning. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Good evening for you. I'm not sure what time it is over there.
Yeah,
So,
it's morning.
yeah, good morning. We're talking about the signs of toxic relationships. So you just joined
Okay.
us when we're talking about toxic relationships. So what do you believe are the signs of a toxic relationship? And we've got Anish talked about
Oh,
jealousy when you're feeling the energy is not great and a few other things. What is your take?
okay. I take on the signs of toxic relationship. I would say, first of all, there's what we call dishonesty. Because in a toxic relationship, the person feels unwanted, and the person feels like is the only one in the relationship, or a kind of in a family way whereby the family don't take you along, nothing is being channeled to you because maybe one or two issues you are having from your own personal self or from other lapses. So dishonesty, when you don't get the right information, you are not being told the truth in everything, how your partner is doing this, these or her things, daily activities like that. Maybe your partner is cheating and there's no this sign to tell you that, okay, uh, look at what is going on. I don't like the way you are. I don't have interest in you anymore. I think you should find your way. There's no that honesty to channel what is wrong with us. We don't communicate to each other. So dishonesty there is one of the sign of a toxic relationship, because by the time the other partner finds out if partner is not being honest, it become mentally drained and feel so subjected or one-sided. So there's this kind of shift of balance in mental state. Then you will begin to think what's wrong with you or what's wrong with your partner because of that act of dishonesty. And also another sign of toxic relationship is lack of communication. I would say lack of communication. Though all these signs are varied in their various nature, but when in a relationship, normally you have to experience these signs one or two times. But when it becomes excess, that's when it becomes or it becomes toxic in nature. Then it begin to affect the relationship. So lack of communication as one of the sign also is also a factor or future of a toxic relationship. With this, I think
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll just,
um
yeah, we'll move to Modesta. Modesta, can you hear us? Modesta, can you hear us at all? Okay. So then, how does a toxic relationship change our mental state and society at large? Anish.
Uh, well, the way I look at it is if you are with person A and you feel that it's like a toxic relationship, you get some sort of an impression onto your brain. Then you move on to with some other relationship, or you are in some other sort of place where you are in a social gathering, and you already have one sort of a layer of dishonesty and lack of respect and someone controlling you, etc., etc. Then there is some sort of a lens with which you are actually trying to filter. Like, do you try and question that is this sort of is this person showing the same sort of signs again? You just want to have that sort of a feeling that you should not be going to the same sort of a situation again. So there is sort of a analysis which happens at the back of your mind that you don't want to be in that situation once again. So it creates that sort of a layer of perception. That's what I'm trying to tell here, that if you go through some sort of a bad experience, it creates a layer of perception, and then you try and see other things, other people, other interaction from that lens. So it creates an impression onto your brain.
Thank you. Thank you. Dodo, what do you think? How does a toxic relationship change our mental state and society at large?
okay, from my own point of view, I would like to categorize it into negative and positive aspects of human. It changes the society and people way of life negatively and positively. When it comes to the negative aspect, it gives you an impression, just as I said, your mindset becomes stuck, whereby you begin to see other people the way your former partner or your person A you've encountered is. So you begin to act harshly or you begin to act irrationally. So it affects your relationship with others because person A has already created a bad experience into your mindset, in which you begin to use that to judge everybody. You become judgmental in nature. Well, positively, it helps you to learn about people and their behaviors and the way they live and what people want and what they don't want. So with that, I think that's the way I could best explain to my understanding of
Thank you. Thank
how
you.
it affects the person and society at large.
Yes. And Modesta, now, can you actually hear us now? Modesta? Hello, Modesta, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Modesta, how does a toxic relationship change our mental state and society at large? What are your thoughts?
Okay, personally, abandonment, and it can cause something known as self-abandonment. One who has been in a toxic relationship or has experienced
Okay, your line is still
to
very
live with
Modesta. We can actually hear you very clearly.
of abandonment, of rejection.
Okay,
Can you hear
Modesta,
me now?
we don't. Are you somewhere very noisy? We can't actually hear you very well. Do you want to try again? Let's see, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, just if you've just joined us, we are talking about toxic relationships and the effects of on mental health. Click, share, comment, and invite your friends to watch and ask questions because this is a topic that is very critical for a lot of people. There's a lot of people living in toxic relationships. Maybe they don't even know the signs. Maybe they don't know what's happening. Maybe they've made it normalized. It's hard to tell whether you're going through a toxic relationship. So click, share, comment, and invite your friends to watch. And please ask questions because we are here today to talk about this topic and to bring some insight onto why these things happen and why and what we can do to overcome these challenges as well. So just moving forward, why do people stay or run out of toxic relationships today? Anish.
So I think this question has got two parts. So one is obviously, why people stay in the relationship. So simple answer would be people need people. So they need connections. So the way I look at it is pretty straightforward. Like if there is one imaginary line, if you can just imagine one sort of a line, I call it as a comfort line, and you have 0 to 10. Zero is where you are, where you are absolutely uncomfortable with that sort of a relationship or a person. And 10 is that you feel absolutely comfortable in their presence. Most of the people revolve around 4, 5, and 6. So they are not that comfortable that, oh, this is like, perfect sort of a relationship. And, even though they try and make it work, etc., still they come back and fall back to 4, 5, 6 sort of a zone. And then that 4, 5, 6 is like a it's okay whether I'm in that relationship or if I'm not in that relationship, it doesn't make any difference to me. So a lot of people stay in toxic relationships because they're in that sort of a zone 4, 5, or 6. Those people who walk out of the toxic relationship would try either make that relationship work, so try and take that 4, 5, 6 towards 8, 9, or maybe 10, or they might take it back to 3, 2, 1, and 0 and quit from that relationship. So the reason people stay is because they need connection, they need love, they need some sort of, they know, okay, there's someone, even though they are bad, even though they, just drain my energy, etc., but there is someone, to talk about, to take care, etc. That's the reason they stay. The reason they run out of toxic relationship is it becomes too much. They feel that they are, they feel the financial stress, they feel the physical stress, they feel the mental stress, they feel the spiritual stress, all sorts of stress which you can imagine. And that's the day when they say enough, and the way I look at it is like it's just one life. You have got just one life. Okay, you make it count. You need not be in that sort of a relationship where you feel that I'm just dragging my life. It's one life. You need to design your life. Don't live your life by default. So that's where I'm doing.
Yes, that's a good one. Living your life by default, which is a lot of people. I think they just settle and forget that life is for living, not dying. You don't die when you're. A lot of people apparently they're not really alive. They're here, but they're not really alive. They're not living their life. They're not being present, which is something I hope listeners listening to this today, you can take some notes. And I see here we have Shreya Shetty. She's made a comment. We create a pattern and mindset based on our experiences. Yeah, that's very true. So, what about Dauda? What are your thoughts on why do people stay in toxic relationships and why do they get out of toxic relationships?
Okay, I will say from my own point of view, people stay in toxic relationship based on they believe their partner can change, and some actually needs comfort and happiness. They find that in their partner, but in the other way around, when we see people leave toxic relationship, because the people that believe that their partner can change make effort. They carry out some certain effort to make sure that yes, from this aspect, they adjust from their own mistakes or from their own lapses, I would say, and also try to encourage their partner to do well as well to maintain their own path also, and try to advise and make sure the relationship works. And other people feel okay, there's this connection I feel with this person, despite the fact that this person doesn't feel connection connected to me. I need to uh, put more effort, let this person see reasons, and maybe in some time to come, this person will have feelings and will also tends to know me the way I know him or her, and will tend to cope with me and accept me for who I am. Then going back to the people that run away from toxic relationship, some of them actually I will categorize it into two, because when a relationship is being toxic, automatically it affects the mental state of a being. It makes someone feel stressed and deranged, and when you feel stressed and deranged, your brain won't think normally. Even when you're at your workplace, when you're doing some activities, you will be imbalanced because your mindset is already destabilized by the way your partner behave or by the nature of your relationship with people around you. So you'll be feeling this kind of awkwardness. So some people try to adjust, but at the long run, they run away from the relationship because the stress is too much, they can't withstand, and they try their best, seeing that it can't work. So there's need for them to what? Seek comfort, as they said, as Anish said, they need to seek comfort somewhere else where someone else will value their effort and also value their relationship. Other
Thank
people, this thing about health that I believe, me, I see mental health doesn't, once mental state need to be balanced, it doesn't need to be stressed at all. So when, by the time you discover this incompatibility between you and people, and you try to adjust, the best way is to what? Is to just leave that environment and try to visualize it. Was it, is the lapses from you or not? So some people run away because they don't want their mental state to be stressed and they don't want to go through some certain pains. So those kind of people, immediately when they face experiences from toxic relationship, they run away immediately. They don't even make effort. So the other category of people make effort to try and see if things can work. So there are two categories of people. So to the best of my knowledge, I think people that run away from toxic relationship actually value their mental state, and they see that okay, instead of you to be as youth and adults, there's this act that you don't need to be mentally sophisticated, because when you are mentally sophisticated, it affects all your nervous system, your health, and even your daily activities. So things you'll be doing will not be right. That's why we advise youth and everyone to make sure that they do things that make them feel happy, comfort, joy, and feel loved and cared about, or you care for people around you. When you see people feeling sad, your family member, some people see that, okay, there are some families, for example, I would say, they will be like, okay, you are the first child of the family, and you don't even provide food to the table. So any decision, anything that is going on in the family will not come to you. They will not even call you into discussion. But the last born of the family will be called into discussion because it's well to do. So with that, the firstborn will be mentally imbalanced because it will be thinking, what's the problem? Is it that because I'm not with such kind of thing, with such kind of toxic relationship in the family, it also affects it leads to suicide. Most of this domestic violence we are seeing these days is due to toxic relationship. So sometimes it's good to avoid toxic relationship to stabilize your mental health. And sometimes it's good to also make effort to see if you could change the behaviors of human, because human, we know we are very complex in nature. So there's need for us to also educate people and also see that yes, there's mental balance and valuable relationship between people instead of being uh, uh, I would say instead of being dramatic in nature and
Thank you.
oppressing others with the way we are. So it's very important to try to make things work rather than running. And also it's also good to run sometimes so that you'll be able to stabilize yourself and know where the problem is coming from before you could provide a solution.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think one thing I believe is change is one of those things that's very difficult for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who get into relationships thinking, when you start dating somebody and there's something which you don't like about them, there's a lot of people who think when we get together, he will change for me or she will change for me. And it's so difficult. I always say to a lot of people, it's so difficult to change you, leave alone try to change somebody else. It's impossible.
Yeah.
People have to be willing.
That's,
People have to be willing to be a better human being and be the best they can be. And nobody can force them. Nobody can make that happen unless they want to. So yes, and coming back to that idea of why people stay and why some people leave, I'm a big believer in the dating stage. You see, this is why I think sometimes we get into these toxic situations because we don't get to know people long enough before we get involved. We rush into things. So I think there's a lot of people. My take is, I know people say, "Oh, we can do whatever we like," but I think it takes 4 seasons to somehow. This is how I take it: 4 seasons to get to know anybody a little bit better, to be able to make a decision. Say, "Hey, I like to be with this person." We don't know those things, and a lot of people just jump in. And then you find everybody, maybe they're running from another toxic relationship and they think you're the right person, and then it carries on, it never stops, and it just gets bad and worse, and everybody loses their mind and everybody gets all out of control. So I'm a big believer in people taking their time to get to learn people, whether it's workplaces, just if we build friendships. Friendships are not overnight. You're gonna build them. You're gonna be there for a while to see how everybody ticks. So that's my take anyway. And Modesta, if you can hear us, what are your thoughts on this? Why do people stay in relationships and why do people leave?
Okay, I would say one of the reasons why people stay in relation
Yeah, go ahead.
is because of fear of what people say. So people stay in a relationship thinking that what people say, what will other people say about them,
Modesta, we still
that
can't hear you very
very
well.
nice in the eyes of everybody.
Modesta, I'm sorry, your line is still really bad. We can't really hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, we've got somebody, a comment from someone on, I think, social media saying, I believe toxic relationships suppress individuals and some are impacted by such a negative way and controlled. They are forced to lose their self-belief and lose their own path of life. That is so true. What do you think, Anish, about that? That is very true, right?
Yes, it is spot on. Trust me, it is spot on. And the word is control, when you feel, see, why people go and travel. Like I do a lot of solo travel. I mean, I've been to 27 so far. When you do solo travel, you have that sort of a freedom. you feel that every cell in your body is dancing in a very perfect sort of a rhythm, so that the difference between when you are in the presence of that person, in the presence of that individual or that sort of a social gathering or that social group, if you feel that your cells are dancing in a smooth sort of a rhythm, you are in a perfect space. And if you feel that it's a bit of a tension or, and it requires a lot of self-awareness, to be very honest with you, and meditation is a tool to build that self-awareness. But when you start feeling that there is some sort of your body is tightening up, your shoulders are getting tight, and then you somehow feel, no, I need to go away from this, but you cannot leave that place. That's when you start feeling that control sort of a feeling. So it is the right word, to be very honest with you. And somehow, what that person has mentioned here, that they are forced to lose their self belief and lose their own path of life. So somewhere they are losing what they really want to do in their life, because this person or this social group is actually pulling him or her down, rather than helping him or her to choose their own path and build that sort of a support around that person. So it is spot on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. And what are the traits of a toxic relationship? I know we've talked about a few things. Dauda, what do you think? Give us maybe two things. What are two traits of toxic relationships?
Yeah, two threat of toxic relationship I can say is selfishness. When a partner is being self-centered and doesn't even recognize the other partner, doesn't even put an atom of effort to even notice the other partner, all it thinks or all she thinks is herself, is self all the time. So selfishness is one of it. Then let me say jealousy.
Yes.
Jealousy is one of the traits of a toxic relationship, because by the time you make your partner feel to the extent of feeling envious of other relationship, that means there's a problem with you in person, or there's a problem in the relationship in which you need to fix. So these two traits are one of the major traits of a toxic relationship.
Thank you. Modesta, if you can hear us, what are the two traits of a toxic relationship? Modesta?
I would say one is invalidation of one's feelings. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
Invalidation of one's feelings.
Okay. Your line is doing it again. Yes. Okay. What about Anish? What are two traits? I know you already talked about selfishness in the beginning in a different context, and obviously Dawood has talked about it. But what else is a trait of toxic relationships? I would think people are always angry. People maybe have got childhood traumas. Those are kind of people who bring things out in the future. So, but what are your thoughts?
See, if I have to add one more point to what I've already mentioned in the previous sort of interaction, I would say, when a person has got this sort of a thought process, it's either my way or highway, or it's either, I mean, I'm not a person who's going to change, as you rightly said, that we are trying to change that person for good, but that person is so close in terms of, no, 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 the way I'm doing is everything is perfect. I don't want to change. When that person is shut down from within, when that person is not open to any sort of feedback, um, that's one sign that it will be very difficult, because not everyone is going to understand, not everyone is going to just follow what you want to do in life. They have their own sort of thought process and perception. And if you're not open to change, it is a slight opening towards, that sort of a toxic relationship, because then that person is always going to feel that, what should I do? Should I give the feedback, yes or no? And then they will try and shut down themselves as well. So maybe that is another point which I would like to add, my way or the highway.
What's happened to the video? Okay, we're still here. Um,
Yes.
okay, so just moving forward, do you believe, Dauda, do we need counselors for people who are going through toxic relationships?
Sure. Uh, People. Oh, sorry. I'm having a network issue.
That's okay.
Can
We
you
can
repeat
hear
the
you.
question again?
So, do you
Can
believe
you
people need counselors who people in toxic relationships need to see a counselor?
Sure, they need a counselor in a toxic relationship. Sometimes people don't know they are the cause of the toxicity, let me say the act of toxicness in a relationship. So they feel it's their partner's fault. So there's need for you to, when you observe a certain behavior or a certain trait that is consistent in nature, then you seek an experienced person, or let me say a counselor, that will give you a guide on what it is. Someone who has experience on a toxic relationship will put you through. So a counselor is very much needed in a toxic relationship to guide the both parties to be able to know what to do and when to do and how to do in a relationship.
Wow. What about Anish? What do you think?
Well, I agree. With the thought about getting some sort of a help from a counselor. But then I also would like to add that, no matter what, no matter how many times you go and listen to that sort of a conversation with the counselor or the therapist, or no matter how many times you listen to some sort of a motivational stuff, at the end of the day, you have to be driven. You have to be driven to change the relationship with that person, or change your perception about it, or come out of that relationship. You have to do that. So I personally feel getting a counseling session would help you for the initial, like, to get the kickstart, but then you have to work upon your own self. So I personally feel things like self-love. When you start loving your own self, in a way you are also trying to accept that other person in your life the way they are. So you're accepting the imperfections in that person. And you try and loosen up a bit in terms of changing that person, or in that person. So in a way you are trying to you know ease out the toxic relationship. So as I just to summarize, what I mentioned here is basically to get a counseling session, to as like a one-off session or two sessions, just to get a kickstart, and then you start working upon your own self, trying to understand, trying to work upon your own self, build self-awareness, self-love, and then slowly and gradually you will see that you're open to imperfections in your own self, as well as imperfection in the other person. And yeah, so counseling, but then self-counseling.
Yes. And we see here we've got comment from Gracefield, Ezine Obioha. She says toxic relationships makes one feel inferior and worthless. It can happen to either parties. For me, a toxic relationship begins from how conversations are made. It begins with conversation. That is so, so true. But Esther, do you believe that counselors are needed for people going through toxic relationships? Okay. Modesta?
Yes, those with toxic relationship need a counselor. Can
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so I'll just move to
can
the
you hear
last.
me?
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead.
Okay, sometimes we make the mistake and think that the problem or the coming from
Okay. I don't know, your line is actually very
we think the
hard to
problem
hear.
is from the other person. We tend to point accusing finger on the other person. But don't look at ways in which we ourselves are contributing to the relationship.
Okay, so we'll just finish up with the last question here. So, how do we get out of toxic relationships to sustain our health? I know living is not easy. Dauda, what do you think? How do you get out? How do you cut the cord?
Yeah, and okay, living toxic relationship is very difficult, but sometimes we don't have a choice because staying in toxic relationship is very, very risky in nature because most of the experiences we had these days, sometime last month, early last month, there was post of domestic violence up and down, that men maltreat their wife, all these kind of things. So we look at that aspect. What is the result? If we should stay in a toxic relationship, is that person really willing to change? What will we expect in such kind of relationship? Because as you said earlier on, there's willingness to change oneself first before thinking of changing the other person or your partner. So in the aspect of a toxic relationship, our advice the partner involved or the person in the receiving end just seek a guidance of an experienced person or a counselor per se to know how to live a toxic relationship. Sometimes you just need to tell your partner that this can't work and uh, it's over between us, or we can't continue with this kind of relationship anymore. I believe that partner will also be comfortable or will be comfortable leaving you, because for someone to be exhibiting such kind of behavior, it means that person actually don't want you around, don't want your company, does not even feel that compatibility or feel to share his or her own personal life with you. That's why the person will be exhibiting some kind of threat. But for someone who loves you and for someone who really wants your relationship to work, who loves his or herself, will be willing to change. Will be looking at all these things. By the time you say, okay, this person, you communicate, just like the comment someone said, it starts from conversation. When you don't say what you don't like, what you see in a person that irritates you or makes you feel bad, then you begin to have that lapses because you know that act in your mind. So by the time you say something out, that's why they said a problem said is half solved, because when you say it, the person will realize his mistake, will be able to adjust. But if it's someone that is not willing to adjust, that means that person doesn't want you. And in a first situation, a situation like that where you experience toxic relationship, you need to just tell your partner that okay, I can't do, go on with this relationship anymore. For your
Thank
own
you.
self preservation and for your mental well-being. Because if you don't do that, you continue experiencing stress and more oppression from your partner just to make you what leave, because that person doesn't actually want you to exhibit such kind of threat. So
Thank you.
there's need for you to just call it a quit and calm down, as you also said earlier on. You calm down and watch out for the best person. Don't rush and go into another relationship after leaving a toxic relationship. You look at the person you want to go into relationship with, take a pause season, as you said. Look at the person, is that person actually worth it or not? Then you go into another relationship. But for a toxic relationship, you just like have to call your partner to order that this is what you are doing and I don't like it, and I'm seeing that okay, we can't change from this particular act. It's maybe part of your nature and I
Thank you.
can't condole it. Please, we need
Thank you,
to go
Dauda.
our separate way, or we don't need to continue such kind
Thank
of
you.
relationship. But for
Thank
further
you. Thank you.
inquiry, you can contact a counselor or a professional, someone who is well to do in that field and has an experience.
Okay, thank you for that. And what about Anish? What do you believe? Why
Well,
do
I'm
why do people get out of toxic? How do they get out of toxic relationships? I mean, Dauda's talked about a lot of things. What's your take?
So I'm going to agree with Dauda what he mentioned about, I'm also going to agree with that one person writing about conversation, starting with just, speaking your heart out, simple as that. Uh, but then I would say that there is a point, and it all comes down to that individual person. What is their level of patience? What is their level of perseverance? What is the level of wisdom they have got? Because they need to take that sort of a judgment. They need to take that sort of a call whether I should be with this person and work upon the relationship for the rest of my life, or should I come out and call it quits and then start my life again? Maybe take a break for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then start another. Because I've seen a lot of people jumping into one relation, they quit one relationship, and then to fill that gap within, they enter into another relationship. And then they start comparing it with that previous relationship, and then they start finding faults, etc., etc. So the idea is to take a break, see whether you can work upon that relationship. If you can work upon that relationship, nothing like it. But then you don't have to give it all the time, because if you're always giving, 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 uh, it's like one-sided sort of a relationship. Okay. So what you need to do is, if you take that sort of a judgment, if you have taken that call, yes, it's enough. Enough is enough. Now I need to move on, and just because I've got single life and I want to make the most of my life, and as I said, design your life, work upon yourself. There might be a lot of imperfections in your own self. There might be a lot of things which you feel that you are perfect, but you are not. You need to work upon your own self. And as I said before, self-awareness, doing a bit of meditation will just open up that insight in your brain that, okay, these are my flaws. I need to work upon my flaws one step at a time. And then I usually talk about in my sessions, I usually talk about this 4 cups technique. So if I have to just show you, this is the kind of cup which you can actually do this exercise on a daily basis. I'm just trying to give some sort of a tip which you can actually work upon yourself. So there are 4 cups according to me. 1 cup is the control cup. When you're trying to control a lot of things, maybe you can write down on a piece of paper, fold it, and put it into this control cup. Am I trying to control this person's behavior? Am I trying to control what he or she wears? What are the things which you're trying to control? If your control cup is filling up, filling up, filling up, it means the problem is with you, because you're trying to control a lot. And that person is feeling that they are in a toxic relationship. So you need to empty your control cup. How would you empty your control cup? You need to move certain things from your control cup to the manage cup. There are certain things which you need to manage. There are certain things which you need to take from your control cup and put it into your accept cup. You need to accept the way they are. And then there are certain things which you need to pull out of the control cup and put it into the let go cup, where you need to let go certain things about that person. If you do this exercise on a daily basis, and if you are with that person, eventually you will find that the control cup is, it's just getting empty, empty, and empty, and it is shifting into the other 3 cups. And when you do it on yourself, the other person will see. The other person is going to see what you are doing, and they will start losing control about things, in that sort of a relationship. So see if that helps you. And if you are at a point where you say, no, it's not working and I'm doing all the sacrifices and everything, then I think it's time to move on and design your life. As I said before, take a break. Don't jump into another relationship or don't jump into another social group. Work upon yourself. Take a break, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, no problem. Who knows that that break is just going to give you a different sort of an insight. So that's my take.
Thank you. You actually answered the question to someone, one of the viewers who asked the question, what when people choose to stay in a bad relationship, what can they do about it? And you just gave the 4 cups analogy, because that was just perfect. Now, I see here we have Sheila. She says, I pray and look for the positive side, ignore the negative vibes, and move on with positive attributes. Yes, that's fantastic. Now, before we conclude, I know there's so many ways to protect your mental health and well-being. So what is the one thing, Anish, you do for yourself on a daily basis to protect your mental health and to check in or to soothe your soul?
So I will give you 2 things, okay? So one bonus. So I prefer to do meditation. I think it answers a lot of my own questions. I think a lot of solutions are hidden inside you. And I prefer to do meditation. It just helps me clear my brain. And second is, I do travel. I travel a lot because travel helps me to build compassion. Travel helps me to build patience. Travel helps me to treat everyone as a big sort of a family rather than just restricting yourself to a small sort of a circle or a family. So I do travel a lot, and those are the two things which I do on a meditation on a daily basis. But travel, usually I try and do a lot of travel, not just once in a year or twice in a year or something like that. But whenever I get time, whenever I'm out of work, etc., then I make sure I do travel. So,
Yeah, see here, just before we finalize, I see we've lost Dauda. We've got Gracefield here makes a comment saying, living or staying in a toxic relationship is a choice. For me, once you notice you're in a toxic relationship, use wisdom, give such person space, don't even allow the person to know where you are, then make that known through phone conversation. And if you really love such a person, book a counseling session and make the person to see the need for it. She also says, please, if the person is dangerous, don't tell such a person face to face. I have heard stories of one leaving a toxic relationship and the end of such person was pitiful. Let's use wisdom in everything. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Grace, for that. And just before we finalize, Dauda, what is one thing you do to soothe your soul and check in with your mental health on a daily basis? Are you muted? Unmute yourself. Dauda, we can't hear you. Dauda, you're muted. Unmute yourself. No. Okay, so while you're figuring that out, I'll just talk about, we finalize with this. You can find more information on the Global Youth Mental Health Awareness by visiting our website, www.globalyouthmentalhealthawareness.org, or you can email jude@gymha.org. Now, Dauda, if you can't hear us, that's about it for today. Can you hear us now or not? Dauda? Okay, I think he's frozen. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, Dauda. Thank you so much, Anish, for joining us and for being insightful with all the information about mental health and toxic relationships. And I want to thank you, viewers, for being so fabulous and for watching the Global Youth Mental Health Awareness Show. Until next time, may all you experience the frequencies of love and light. Stay blessed. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Namaste.